Welcome to When to Disclose Your ASD at Work. So this is another topic that was voted by you, so thank you to everyone who participated in that Patreon poll. So today I'm going to go through some of the reasons why people might choose to disclose and some of the risks that come alongside disclosing ASD at work. I'll go through some of the reasons that there's such a broad range of views as to when is the best time to disclose, because obviously it's a very personal decision based on not only your personal philosophy but the situation that you happen to be in as well. And then at the end I will give you my own personal opinion on the matter as well. First up, it has to be said that there are a very, very wide range of opinions on this. When I asked you about your experience disclosing ASD at work, some people said things like, as if they're not going to be able to tell anyway, or I can't find a job now because everyone knows I'm on the spectrum. It makes you less employable because stigma around ASD still exists. And then another person, I accidentally outed myself. It turned out to be the best job I've ever had. Since then, I tell everyone straight up. So there's everything from absolutely never going to tell anyone under any circumstances to completely out and proud. The entire world knows I'm on the spectrum already. So disclosure is not really an issue. So when we're choosing to disclose, there's usually a couple of things that we're looking, a couple of benefits that we're looking to achieve with that. So some might be a better understanding. So I can explain myself to others using in the context of autism, and they can know that this will help me and this will be really difficult for me. A common example is, can you please give me a little bit of notice before something happens, because I find change at the last minute very stressful, for example. We also might want to apply for some special consideration in terms of special help, or alternatively, one of the reasons that I personally like to disclose, and why I started this whole blog and everything like that, is so that I can teach other people about autism by teaching them about myself. So there are a couple of reasons why we might want to disclose. In terms of risks, the biggest one is that once someone knows that I'm on the spectrum, they can use that against me. So whether that's in the form of discrimination, whether that's because I've told them how I work and I need this, otherwise I'm not going to function, and then because of that additional information, they've got more power over me, and that puts me in a more vulnerable position. Or maybe if I disclose, they're not going to even know what that means. Hello boss, I have autism, and they go, oh, right, good to know. What is autism? What does that mean? What do I do with that information? So especially because there's still a public stigma around the word autism, it's mostly seen in a negative light at the moment. If someone doesn't know anything about autism and you don't give them something really practical or positive to do with the information, then it could potentially lead to negative consequences later. So for some people, they've chosen to not disclose autism at all. And some of the reasons that you might like to do that is because you don't really need help, you don't really need other people to understand you. Advocacy is not on top of your list in terms of teaching other people about autism from a personal perspective. And it could be, especially in your industry. Ironically, I know a lot of psychologists who are on the spectrum and who have been advised to not tell anybody because there's too much of a stigma in their particular industry. And that information could get into the hands of someone who doesn't know you, someone who's making a decision about whether you should get a job or a promotion or something, and that could hurt you. So some people choose to never disclose at all, and the benefit is that no one knows, and the downside is that it's hard to get specific help if nobody knows, because you have to phrase everything in terms of a different need rather than something you can talk specifically about autism. So others try not to tell people if they can help it and only use it as a last resort if absolutely necessary. If they absolutely need help, then they will let someone know that they're on the spectrum and try and get some help. Slightly further along the line is a person that will try not to tell most people, but still disclose to maybe a support worker or maybe the disability coordinator at your workplace, or someone that you trust, someone who can still help you a little bit, but someone who will make sure that it's not going to be common knowledge and won't be able to be used against you. On the other side, people who are more open to disclosing, we've got a very, very common strategy of waiting until people get to know me as a person first. They know me as a person, they see my work, they know I'm competent at this, and then I can tell them about autism, and then they've already got a reference point to know what that actually means, rather than getting some information and they don't know what to do about it. Even further along the spectrum, you've got the people that think it's absolutely the best thing to do to let someone know as soon as possible before there is even the smallest chance of a problem. So if I wait until people get to know me, there is a chance that there might be a misunderstanding before they get to know me, and which kind of makes sense, right? Because before people get to know me is the most likely place where they're going to be able to judge me incorrectly. And then, of course, you've got the 100% out and proud, I'm going to tell everyone in advance kind of people. And I know personally the decision to make this blog, this was a big decision for me, because I knew that if I started making this blog, there's absolutely no going back. Once you hit this point and it's 100% public, if I had experienced any of these, then bad luck. There's nothing I could do about it. But I decided that for me personally, I really wanted to help people understand difference in general, because diversity is something that I really am passionate about. So some other factors to consider are things like, when are they going to notice something is a little bit different about you? Because if they're going to notice something is different, let's say you have a speech delay or something really obvious like that, then the person needs an explanation of that. Because if, for example, someone speaks more slowly, the common assumption is, oh, they must have an intellectual disability. And very often that's not the case at all. But to overcome that assumption in advance, the person needs an explanation as to what's going on. Another thing to consider is, when are issues likely to come up where you're going to need some extra understanding from your colleagues or your manager, for example. So it's probably going to be a good idea to let them know in advance of that, to prevent that, rather than waiting until everything blows out of control and then mentioning, oh, so you know that thing that happened, that was because of my autism. And so it's pretty hard to dig up from that situation. You could also consider the safety of your work environment. Are the people around me likely to be helpful and want to use this information in a good way? Or is it a cutthroat work environment where any tiny little weakness is taken advantage of by other people? And lastly, what do you actually want people to do with this information? Because if you don't have a really specific thing that you're asking for, it can be confusing for someone. Great, you're on the spectrum. What does that mean? What do I need to do? What do you need to do? Why are you telling me? What should I do with this information? So disclosing in a way that's helpful to an employer is usually going to be looked upon in a more positive light, rather than, here's my autism, here are all the things that you need to do for me because of this. So if we put all that aside for a minute, I think we're actually asking ourselves the wrong question here in terms of when to disclose ASD at work. A better question, or perhaps a more fundamental question that needs to be answered before you can even start to answer that, is, who are you? Who are you? Can you tell me? Can you show me? Who is the person that you are going to present at a job interview or present in the workplace? once you know who that person is, and maybe autism is front and center in that person, in your identity, or maybe it's not. Maybe autism is just something that's a part of you, but it's not front and center, and that's okay too. So once you know who you want to be as a person, then it's more a matter of having the confidence to go out and actually be that person and then let people respond to you. In some sense, if I don't accept myself, if I don't believe in myself, how can I really expect other people to do that for me when I'm going and saying, yeah, I'm not really sure I'm very good at this, but maybe you'd like to give me a go. I kind of have to say, I know that this is me, and I know my ASD is not a problem for you. Or alternatively, I know that I need these things and I deserve to ask for these things because I'm a human being and I want to work for you, and I know that I'm not as capable in some areas as some other people, but I still know my own worth. I know my own value, and I demand that I'm going to be treated in that way. So maybe I'm digressing a little bit into assertion skills, which are also very important. But when I think about this issue, the question that really comes to mind is, should I stand out or not? Because if I put my hand up and I say, I'm on the spectrum, I've got these differences, I've got these specialties, that is going to help me stand out from the crowd, which could be a good thing. Employers are always looking for people who are standing out from the crowd. But at the same time, I need to make sure that I stand out in a good way rather than stand out, oh, he's a bit different, I'm not going to employ him, because difference is often seen as bad unless we've got a positive story behind it. So the other option, instead of standing out, is blending in. And of course, blending in isn't the easy option either. It takes a lot of social skills to be competent to fit in like that, and to have a mask that you can actually wear all day, every day, and it's not a problem. Because if you're wearing a mask and it is a problem, eventually you're going to need help, and eventually you're going to have to either disclose or bad things are going to happen. So it's very difficult to sometimes to blend in a good way. So personally, I think standing out is the easier option. However, it's still crucial to learn how to stand out in a positive way, in a way that makes other people feel good about you. I know I always come back to these emotional management strategies, but if I can stand out in a way that makes people think, oh wow, that's a good thing, then disclosing is an advantage to me. Whereas if I see autism and I act as if my autism is something to be ashamed of, and if I haven't told people up front, and if I only bring it out as a last resort, then it can be seen by others as something that I'm ashamed of, and therefore is something to be ashamed of. Okay, well, I hope you found this useful today. I know there's probably a lot that I haven't gone through. So if you have any additional thoughts, please leave them in the comments as to what works for you and additional advice that you think is good for other people to have. If you watch this video, you'll probably want to check out my series on employment, especially my emotional intelligence tips for getting a job and keeping a job. And no matter what stage you're at, if you're looking to take the next step and invest in your own professional development, then make sure you join us for the upcoming emotional intelligence course, because managing emotions makes everything easier. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you another time. Bye.